All right, welcome back to the afternoon session of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. I figured until court comes back in session, they're not back yet, we would watch Lauren's lunchtime live from a little bit earlier today until court comes back.
Number 4 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial last year. And then I have juror number 18 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. And you have, well, first, Laura brought me something. She said, you can't go live until I go to my car and I get something for you.
I really want to apologize about the close-up that Lauren had to give me the other day. So I brought something to help her out.
Thank you. Does that help? Yeah, I always tell people get it in your face so you can hear. Get it in your face so I can hear you. I'm like this, but she's saying, look, now my voice.
Now you don't have to be right up close.
I hate it too. So I did get a lav mic from a gem, guys, and to hook to my phone. And every day I say I'm going to figure it out technology. But I was a friend of Chad Daybell's, and Julie, you said it while we were out walking to Whole Foods for some food earlier today. You were you called yourself brainwashed.
Yeah, brainwashed for sure. I believed a lot of the stuff. I was in it, and there's a lot more people responsible for some of these things that have occurred in belief systems than people realize. And it's destroyed lives. And I'm just like ready to tell my story and own it and have a voice. And
very important.
Stay tuned. I'm doing an interview, and so this has to stop, and things need to be exposed. And I believed a lot of it. I wasn't all the way there in some of those belief systems, but I was in. I was in on Julie Rowe. I was friends with her for many years.
So many more.
And it's time for me to tell my story. So.
And thank you, Julie. And by the way, people in chat, this is not me. They are remembering you for dancing with Julie Rowe.
Imagine how much horrible behavior is excused through these systems, through these beliefs. If these beliefs could lead to justifying death, imagine all the other stuff leading up to death that it could justify. Hello, everyone coming in. Court is not back in session yet, so we're watching Lauren's lunchtime live.
And her TikToks. I tell her, I was like, I remember you from her TikTok. She's like, I was only in 2, but it was memorable. You were close. Yeah, they're saying this in chat. So anyway, I will be interviewing Julie later today. It was actually my interview with Larry Woodcock recently that she texted, and she said it's time for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. If not anyone else, I'm ready to share my voice. So we'll be doing a recorded interview later today. But
cool.
Let's talk. Today in court was the paintball gun, not paintball gun incident, the quote paintball. I can't do air quotes because I'm holding paintball gun incident. Thank you. This is a group effort here. Do that again. The paintball gun incident, the rifle, the shooting, the gun. And I think, well, let me ask you, Tom and Laura, how do you feel? The prosecution is coming with some great witnesses and some great evidence today to show that this was a shooting, that this was a rifle, that this was not a paintball gun. Of course, John Pryor's cross right now, which is discouraging. But how do you feel the jury is taking in all of the evidence and the witnesses? Who wants to go first?
Well,
Laura,
do you want
Tom?
me to tell you how I think it's going?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to tell you how I think they're taking it? Well, it was a little different for me.
Tell me how you're taking it. Share how you're taking it.
Well, because last year they weren't prosecuting Chad, they were prosecuting Lori. And for me, it was like so confusing. I'd never seen a paintball gun. So I was like, can a gun really look like a paintball gun? I had no idea. They did try to introduce a picture of a paintball gun last year, and the defense objected. And so I did ask that specific question of
You did.
other guys when we were in the jury.
Wow, you asked the specific.
Well, this is one of the
question.
jury's
Wow. Yeah.
juror members from
Because I wanted to know if that could
Lori's
be a
trial.
possibility. And the feedback was yes. Now, I've never gone back and actually looked to see what a paintball gun looks like. But for me, it didn't really play into any of my conclusions
See?
as to guilt or innocence.
It doesn't matter to the jury.
I think it's a bigger role for this time because there's a lot of coordinations, and I think it was an attempt on her life. And Alex didn't know how to shoot a gun. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Clearly.
And he didn't know what he was doing. And he had, a week earlier tried on Brandon Boudreaux, and now he's trying. And I think there was a text from Lori
The jury
or
gets
a
it.
comment from somebody saying he messes everything up. Wasn't there something like that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it, for me, it was all like.
The other thing is that around that time, there was also reportedly an explosive fight that spilled out into the street between Alex and Lori, and people heard, like neighbors heard Lori chastising Alex and telling him he couldn't do anything right.
Accumulation. I was like trying to take it in. I didn't know what a grindle was or a drop or any of that. So it was all like, I
Confusing.
don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it would depend on who it was, how they're taking it.
Yeah. Thank you. Tom, I want to ask you, do you want to hold this pink rose mic, or would you prefer that I just...
You want it.
I'll let you, unless
I can hold it if you want.
he's going to hold
Another
it.
All right, here
juror.
we
He's
go.
going to hold it.
Talk right into it.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
So
you
what
want
do you,
the
so
same
what are your
question?
thoughts? Yeah. So I want to know, well, any thoughts you have, like, do you think that we're getting through that this wasn't, he's not going to hold the mic. Do you think there's any way, how do you feel like the jury is taking the shooting, or this is a big part of sort of saying the people were targeting Tammy, right? And John Pryor, the defense is really trying to say, look, this was an absolute paintball gun incident, and it was a bipolar teenager. That's the scapegoat, is the unknown bipolar teenager. Do you feel like the prosecution is getting through that this is really something that's really important? Do you think it's going to matter in the end when it comes to whether or not Tammy was murdered or that her causes were natural? I mean, what are your thoughts about how important this is and how the jury might be taking it?
Well, I think it's just a piece of evidence that points toward the idea that they were trying to kill Tammy. You can definitely buy a paintball gun that looks exactly like an AR rifle.
Yep.
So I can see how that could be mixed
You
up.
can buy
And the
Nerf
hopper is
guns
on
that
top,
look like that.
and it would look real similar to that scope. Tammy did seem pretty sure that it was a paintball gun, though, so I don't know. But
You actually bring up an interesting point that a lot of people, you clearly know about guns. And I would say a lot of people in Idaho do know about guns, which is going to play, Laura's nodding, which might play into the opinions. But is that going to be for good or for bad? Are they going to say, well, a paintball gun looks so different than that, or is it going to help? In my opinion, I think they're doing an okay job today. It's
All right,
frustrating,
court
but when
is
you're
back.
in there and you're watching the jury,
So we'll go back to court.
I think they've maybe made up their mind.
All right, we can have the jurors brought in, please.
Well, in my personal opinion, they wasted a lot of freaking time on the paintball thing. And there is Pryor changing Chad's depends. Hey, Sparkles. Isn't that an amazing drawing? I think she's asleep by now. It's very late where she is. But there's the doggy drawing again. And then there's the drawing that she was inspired by us. I think it's very warm and beautiful and comforting and loving. And I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's all for you all. She's an incredibly creative person. She's also a writer. She writes poetry. Yep. People amaze me. I love people. I really, 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 really love people. I love seeing the good parts of people. It bothers me that social media brings out the intentionally, like it intentionally brings out the mean parts of people. Ah, man, that bothers me so much because yes, it brings out the it also brings out the good parts of people because people want to show their best sides. But the people who want to make money on YouTube, quick money on YouTube, they're going to show their worst sides because YouTube and all of the internet, all of social media torques toward the bad behavior because it garners the most attention.
Praise all, President Gunner, for you, Honor.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record after the lunch recess on KCR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Continuing with cross-examination of Detective Kaya Kamanu. Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to continue with cross, you may. Yes.
Kaya Kumanu, such a cool name. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It's free.
What's being published there, counsel?
It's the same as before. I think it's the officer's report, exhibit number 14. We're just going through the same as we did previously.
Okay, thank you. Exhibit 14 is
Your Honor.
being published to the jurors. That's okay.
So, officer, again, in your report, you noted that these were relevant to your investigation. They're emails from Tammy's email account from someone named Julie Rowe. Is that right?
Yes,
And it looks like the emails are to Tammy. And it says something about support springcreekbooks.com, March 12, 2019. Do you see that?
yes.
Okay, so if you would be so kind as to just read from Chad down to Julie for me.
Chad, I met with the state president last night and he has requested we stop publishing all my books. I told him I do not have the rights to the books and that my publisher has those rights. He asked me to contact you to request that we stop publishing. He has asked me to copy him on this email and send him your reply. Yep.
Hi, PK.
He also asked me, he also said he is going to contact your state president, Julie.
Okay. So do you know what a stake president is?
I believe the state president is over the stake of a ward, of the wards.
Okay, and is that, and I'm not familiar with this, but does that mean there's a number of wards or groups that are like neighborhoods? And the stake president overlooks a number of these wards? Is that what it is?
From my understanding, yes.
Okay, do you know who the stake president was in this email?
I do not.
but it appears that they're telling Julie Rowe. You know who Julie Rowe is?
Throughout the investigation, her name came up, and also known as a publisher or a book writer.
Right. And she was someone who put on presentations all over the Arizona, Utah, Idaho area about preparedness issues, right?
Yes,
And she published books about that as well, right?
yes.
And is there anything in the indication of your review of the emails why a stake president would inject himself into the publishing of books?
Yes, Sparkles.
I'm not sure on that.
And then and again told Julie Rowe that her stake president is going to contact Chad's stake president,
Correct.
right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. But there's nothing in the other emails that you had to show why a couple of stake presidents would interfere with Chad Daybell publishing his books?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next one we're talking about is from Tammy to Mark, and Mark again is Tammy's son, Mark, right?
Yes.
That's the youngest son, if I remember right.
Yes.
And the date of this email is March 31st of 2019, correct?
Yes.
And it's Tammy writing to her son, Mark. And I'll read. I've got Dad and Garth doing a C to 5K, and then in parentheses, couch to 5K. So I would you interpret that to mean that the C would mean couch and the number 2 would mean 2, like TO to 5K? Is that how you would interpret that?
Yes.
And if I understand that correctly, what that would mean is that you're starting from the very beginning of your training, and you may be a couch potato, right?
You could say that. Yes.
Yeah. And you're starting from the very start of something, and you're going to try to do a 5K, right?
Yes.
And it says with me, right?
Yes.
So that would imply on March 31st of 2019, we had 3 couch potatoes at the Daybell house.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation and misstates the email.
Sustained.
How do you interpret that?
That they just wanted to start working out and getting into shape.
Okay, from couch potato to 5K, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, misstates the evidence. Counsel's testifying. Move to strike.
Sustained and stricken.
Okay. Then it goes on to say, we've done the first week twice because quite frankly, I didn't feel ready to move on to the second week. But it should be good for us. Okay, good for me. I have to say, I admire you for running track. Starting from nothing is not easy. Now, when you see the term starting from nothing is not easy, it's not particular whether we're talking about Tammy starting from nothing or whether it's Mark starting from nothing, right?
Correct.
It's unclear there, correct?
Correct.
But then you put in there not the full email. Is there further explanation in there that maybe explains who we're talking about, who's starting from nothing on this couch potato issue?
No, there is not.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. And then we'll move on. And it's from Tammy to Mark again on April 14th, 2019. I tripped over the duck gate on Saturday and landed hard on my right hand. And the bucket of eggs I was carrying, it hurt so bad, I just lay in the driveway and cried. Then I got up, cleaned up the egg mess with my left hand and went in the house to find Dad. Luckily, I seemed to have only bruised it. Of course, Dad blessed it, so it may have been worse. Okay? And there's nothing, what's the evidentiary issue of this?
So during the during the investigation, it was said that Tammy had a hurt wrist
Right.
and that she was taking medication for it. So this goes back to, instead of a possible fainting spell, she had tripped over the duck gate. and
Okay.
fell on her wrist. So that was relevant to me putting this in my report.
Okay, thank you. And again, that's not the full email that you provided to us today, right?
It was not.
Okay, and was there any further explanation that as to what caused Tammy to trip?
She tripped over a bucket.
Okay, did she trip because she had a dizzy spell? Did she trip because she had a seizure?
Well, this says I tripped over a duck gate. So she
Okay.
had tripped over a duck gate, causing her to fall.
Okay, so we don't know if it was just ran into the duck gate or she had some sort of medical condition that caused her to trip over the duck gate though, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation. The email speaks for itself and asked and answered.
Sustained.
You don't know all of the facts behind what centered around the reason for the trip over the duck gate. Would that be fair?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation. Again, the message speaks for itself.
I'm not asking him to speculate. I'm just asking whether it was explained, Judge.
Overruled.
In this email, I would just take it as she tripped over something.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Thank you. And then lastly, from Tammy to Mark on April 28th, Dad is in Houston and won't be back until Monday night. So you'll just have to get to talk to me tomorrow. And what's that?
So on this one, this correlates with some of our other records showing that Chad was in Houston, and that Tammy was home alone.
Okay. Next one was something about, oops. And I don't see. Something that identifies the date, but it was something about a zone conference. Do you know what that was about?
I am not sure on that.
Okay. And then does it seem like your tapeworm medicine worked? Who's talking to who there? Do you know?
I would believe Tammy is emailing and talking with Mark on this one.
Okay. So it's Tammy who's suggesting that there was some tapeworm incident. She was having some sort of malady.
Correct. This might be a continuation of the page before.
Okay.
Possibly.
And the page before would have been this malady with the tapeworm, would have been on the 28th of 2019. Would that be fair?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you for clearing that up. Okay. And then she goes on, I guess I should ask you, is that Tammy who said, I haven't slept well since Dad has been gone. I'm hoping to sleep well tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then we're going to
She was emotionally dependent.
June
on
30th
him.
of 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
And then let me read this and then I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Another adventure we had this week involves a raccoon. Last year we had skunks. This year a raccoon. We thought stray cats were getting into the cat food, but nope. Garth saw it one night and it was a raccoon. We borrowed a little trap from Matt Price, but when Garth went out to check it that night, the raccoon ran up the tree by the trap. It was huge. No way it was going to fit in the trap. It was larger than Chase and had really long teeth. Garth kept his flashlight on it and called us in the house. Dad got his gun. He shot it out of the tree, then shot it again as it tried to run across the yard. We now have a raccoon buried in the compost heap. Something else got into a cat food a couple of nights ago, so we borrowed a larger trap from Matt. We didn't catch anything last night, so we'll see if we get anything tonight. If we do catch anything, Matt asked us not to shoot it because he has a friend who will use whatever we catch to train dogs. Joel I think that's Nickel, told me they've got a couple of raccoons and skunks they've been trying to trap, and some coyotes have been eating chickens at houses over by Jordan Graham's house. In all, it's been a crazy year with wildlife. Do you see that?
Yes.
And could you identify the date when they're having this crazy year with wildlife?
June 30th, 2019.
Okay, and the The allegation with Chad Daybell is that there was an email that the prosecutor has alleged may have a different meaning, but that was September 30th of 2019, correct? September of 2019, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm unaware of what email you're referring
Okay,
to.
well, would it be fair that the allegations are that they discovered JJ and Tylee's body and that they are presuming as part of your investigation that they were buried in Mr. Daybell's property in September of 2019?
Yes,
Okay, and there was some email by Chad Daybell that made mention of a raccoon. You recall that?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Abstain.
Okay. So from what I gather, the allegations about the children being buried on Chad Daybell's property was the same year as this email as well, correct?
yes,
And we're on June 30th of 2019. And the allegations against Mr. Daybell relate to around September, sometime in September of 2019, correct?
yes,
So 2.5, 3 months later, there's at least two references about raccoons. Would that be fair?
yes.
Okay. And there's a reference that they buried this raccoon in a compost heap. Where's the compost heap on Mr. Daybell's property? Do you know?
I'm not sure about
Okay.
that.
All right. And then we go on to July 7th of 2019, right?
Yes,
Here is the second raccoon. The first one was shot. Garth said this one is smaller than the first one. I like how the kittens are looking at him too. Okay, and that's from March 7th. And that's also relating to this raccoon issue. Would that be fair?
yes,
Okay.
He's establishing this because of the raccoon text
then
to
we have
Tammy
a,
later.
Picture. Dad has lost a lot of weight. He just doesn't seem to eat much anymore, and he is exercising. You see that, right?
yes,
But above that is a trap. Can you explain? Does that look like a trap?
yes.
And somewhere in the back top of the picture, it looks like there's some sort of raccoon in it. Is that what you see?
That's what I'm trying to see. I
Okay.
see the kittens there.
I do. Okay. And the previous motions made mention of Tammy saying, here's a picture of the second raccoon. It's a smaller one. So
Would you like me to point it out? I just,
you did find it? Go ahead if you.
so it's kind of hard to tell. The raccoon is right there.
Okay. Is it, officer, is that raccoon in the trap?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Then we go down and we have a picture of Chad and Tammy, right?
Yes,
And again, not the full email, but your perception is that there's nothing there that was relevant to this investigation, right?
yes,
Okay, and then does that appear to be the side of the house?
appears to be the back of the house, I believe.
Okay. And from the email, that would be a picture of July 7th of 2019.
I'd have to look at the first page. Yes,
Okay, thank you. August 4th of 2019. Dad is in Arizona. He's speaking to a small group on Sunday night. And at a girls' camp on Monday night, he flies home on Tuesday, right?
yes,
And that had reference to the August 4th meeting with Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow and all of the ladies who met Sunday at a girls' meeting at Lori Vallow's house. Is that what that was about?
yes, I believe so.
Okay, okay. But that's not the full email. But again, you determined there wasn't any relevance to anything else. Would that be fair?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then we go on again. And we talk about from Tammy to Mark, again, Tammy Daybell to Mark on September 15th of 2019, right?
Yes.
And this was about a month before Tammy passed away. Would that be fair?
Close to, yes.
Okay. And she says, this was taken on Saturday. Joe planted potatoes in his garden. I had been sick in bed all day with a really bad cold, but I put on a hat and went over to pose for this picture so it looks like I'm really a real Idahoan. But I went right back to bed after we took it. I'm still sick today, and my nose won't stop running. I will go to work tomorrow, though, because I am helping with testing, and getting sub work would be more trouble than it was worth, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's some mention of continue whining. I burned my arm today when taking some rolls out of the oven, right?
Yes.
And the relevance of this is that it was just mentioning that 3 weeks before 3 weeks before Tammy passed away, she was sick for one day and basically was sick the entire next day and just got up and made herself put on a good face and made herself and go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. I don't hear a question there.
Stand.
She wasn't feeling well that day, right?
Correct.
Again,
It
all
appears that she was sick the following day, right?
Yes.
She spent a significant amount of time in bed,
Yes.
and she put on the courage to go to work on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the one, your mom came to visit us Friday night and Saturday morning. Under orders from Grandma Cooper, I'll let her tell the story. I'm not, what's the relevance of that?
So the relevance to that is that is from Ron Douglas to Mark, which
Okay.
Ron Douglas is Mark's grandpa.
Okay,
Through our investigation, Tammy did not drive very far alone. And so it was important enough for Ron, the grandpa, to email Mark and say, hey, your mom came to visit us, which they live in Utah, which is 3.5 hours away. And she drove all by herself.
okay. And this was October 6th of 2019, right?
Correct.
because Chad told her to.
And you were aware that the reason Tammy Daybell didn't drive by herself is because of some medical concerns about her balance and.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. Facts not in evidence. Move to strike.
Stand.
Are you aware that the reason Tammy Daybell didn't drive is because of some medical concerns she had for herself?
No, I am not.
Okay. I went down to Springfield by myself, October 6th. I drove there by myself and then drove home by myself. I'm a big girl now. I can tell you more about this in a bit, right?
Yes.
So by your indications, you're suggesting on October 6th, 13 days before her death, 12 days before her death, that she was able to drive. Is that what this is about?
That's what she's emailing Mark. Yes.
She was
And
really
was there any indication
infantilized.
that prior to that time she didn't drive or that she was concerned about driving?
Long distances. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And this again touches on, I think we talked about this previously about the Wednesday during the day with Reagan Price and the person who took her dog. And that leads into what we originally started with. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then there's one final email that talks about Matt Price sending audiobooks for Tammy to listen to, right?
Yes.
And that was for her trip?
Tammy sent those, I believe, to Matt Price with codes to get into the audio book.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, thank you. And if I could just have a minute, Judge, thank you.
You may.
Sounds to me like what Pryor is setting up is he's going to heavily question the autopsy. Because if he's not going to heavily question the autopsy, which has a finding of homicide by asphyxiation, if he's not going to question that,
One last area.
why is he bringing up all this supposed prior sickness?
On the day that you got the call about Tammy's death, you received a call from who again? I'm sorry.
I missed a call from Deputy Greenhalgh.
Okay. But then you said something about you followed up with it later and did have a discussion, or my notes not accurately reflecting?
So I missed that call and called her back about an hour and a half later
Okay.
and spoke with her on that. Yes.
And then she recited the facts about what she observed. Is that right?
She informed me that she was on an unattended death. I went through and asked her if there's anything out of the ordinary, anything suspicious, and she told me there was not.
Okay. So according to Officer Greenell, there was nothing suspicious. Is that right?
That's what she told me, yes.
Okay. And then according to, did you have a chance to look at Brenda Dye's report as a result of this investigation?
Not the AG's report, no. But
I'm not talking the AG's report. I'm talking about Brenda Dye's diagram and report about this unattended death.
I did not.
Okay. So from your perspective, when Officer Greenall contacted you and advised that there was nothing suspicious about the death, at that point, it did not require you to take any further action. Would that be fair?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Judge, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Oh my goodness, I thought that would never end. So let's see what the
Oh, you're right.
state does to
Oh my goodness.
redirect. I would imagine there's going to be some focus on this whole idea of the paintball gun. I hope that they just dispose of the whole idea of whether it matters or not, based on all the other evidence and all the other facts surrounding it. I know, Lollipop. And also, there needs to be a little bit of cleanup around whether
All right, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
what these prior ailments mean, whether they matter. All right, Camille, let's go, girl.
We're gonna, I'm gonna start a little backwards here and start with that last exhibit. You were shown some emails that you reviewed in the last exhibit by defense counsel. And there was some indication in there about people being light and dark. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Through your investigation, did you learn who it was that would label people as light or dark?
Chad Daybell.
You were also shown an email about Chad needing to do some work on Mark's camera. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And the indication was Chad was the one that had to do that work, correct?
Yes.
And I think specifically it referenced the camera was cursed.
Yes.
Mark wasn't at the Daybell residence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mark was on his mission.
Yes.
Drive safely, Sparkles.
It was brought up that Chad had labeled some 12-year-olds as dark. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You were asked if those kids are still alive to the best of your knowledge, are they?
The best of my knowledge, yes, I hope so.
Were those Lori's minor children?
No,
Were they obstacles to Chad and Lori being together?
no,
There was also an email on March 31st of 2019 where Tammy was talking about getting ready for a 5K. Do you recall that?
yes.
Did that indicate to you that Tammy was active?
It's hard to say active. Working out, you do different things, right? And trying to stay in shape, you do different things. Some people may run to stay in shape. Some people may go lift weights to stay in shape. So that may just have been something different she wanted to try.
Did it indicate to you that Tammy had a desire to at least do something to be active?
Yes,
Then you were shown an email that Tammy sent to Mark on April 28th of 2019 about Chad being in Houston.
yes.
And can you remind us what the significance of that was?
The significance with that was we have information that Chad had gone there with Lori. And her emailing Mark saying that Chad's in Houston just kind of confirmed that.
And later on in that same email, we see Tammy say, I haven't slept well since dad has been gone. Do you recall that?
Yes,
So Tammy indicated she wasn't sleeping well and Chad was in Houston with Lori.
yes,
Then the next one, there's a couple texts about a raccoon. Do you recall, or not texts, excuse me, a couple emails about a raccoon.
yes,
And the first one is on June 30th of 2019, correct?
yes,
And in that one, there's mention of having a flashlight.
yes,
Did it appear that the raccoon was shot at night?
yes,
Then we see another email on July 7th of 2019 with a image of a raccoon in a trap, correct?
yes.
Do you recall ever seeing an email from Tammy to Mark about a raccoon in September of 2019?
I did not.
So Tammy emailed Mark twice about seeing a raccoon, but no messages in September of 2019 to Mark that you recall.
Not on this email, no.
Then you were asked about the message from Tammy to Mark on August 4th of 2019 about Chad being in Arizona. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And in the message, Tammy indicates that Chad is at a girls' camp.
yes.
Was he at a girls' camp?
He was at a conference, I believe, at Lori's house.
So again, he was with Lori on August 4th of 2019.
Yes,
Do you recall when Charles Vallow was killed?
July 11th, 2019.
Bad facts.
There was an email also shown that was from Tammy to Mark on September 15th of 2019, where Tammy references having a cold. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And Tammy indicated she was in bed for a few days.
yes,
And that was in September.
yes,
Any similar email message to Mark in October about Tammy being sick?
no,
Then you're asked about some messages on October 6th, one from Ron Douglas to Mark and one from Tammy to Mark about Tammy visiting Springville, Utah. Do you recall those?
yes.
Through your investigation, did you learn anything about Tammy having a medical concern that kept her from driving?
No,
Through your investigation, did you learn who encouraged her to go to Springville that weekend?
Yes.
And who was that?
Chad Daybell.
He told Tammy her grandmother told him to tell her to go to Springville, so she felt compelled to go.
And circling back, Detective, do you recall the email? You've been shown it by both myself and defense counsel that was from Tammy DeMark about the attempted shooting.
Yes.
And you were asked some questions about Regan Price and Tammy mentioning some things Regan had shared with her about a lady trying to steal Regan's dog. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Regan described a lady trying to steal her dog, correct?
Yes.
Did Regan ever mention the lady having a firearm?
No.
Did Regan ever mention the lady being dressed all in black?
No.
You were asked quite a bit about the Daybell's driveway. How many driveways are at the Daybell residence?
2.
And you were asked about a longer driveway. Would you consider that the front or back driveway or side driveway?
The back driveway is a very longer driveway compared to the front driveway.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask to be handed States Exhibit 291.
Very well.
And Your Honor, may I publish?
You may.
And we've looked at this exhibit a couple times, but in that second paragraph, can you see which driveway Tammy came into that day?
She backed into the front driveway.
Is the front driveway that long?
It's, like I discussed earlier, about 2 car lengths.
And then is there a driveway that's even longer than that?
Yes.
And how long is the other driveway car lengths, if you could estimate? Message, put it back up. In that second paragraph, do you see an indication of what time of day this occurred?
9:15.
And that would be referring to PM.
Yes, that's when the call came in around that time.
And again, you're from the Fremont County area. Correct?
Yes.
And October's in Fremont County about 9 PM. Is it still light out generally?
It's usually getting about dusk.
And Tammy wore glasses too.
Do you recall reviewing? Let me back up. Would it surprise you to learn that there was no report by Deputy Cannon where he referenced having searched for paintball guns with Tammy Daybell?
Would it surprise me that there was no search with that?
that there was no Google search done for paintball guns?
Overruled.
No.
If Deputy Cannon had indicated that he never searched for paintball guns with Tammy Daybell, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but do you know how familiar Tammy Daybell was with firearms?
I do not know how familiar she was with them.
And council talked about some searches that were done by an email associated with Tammy Daybell regarding a paintball gun and an airsoft gun. Do you recall those?
Yes.
From your review of the October 9th investigation, did Tammy Daybell ever produce any photo saying this is the firearm?
No, she did not.
And yet she didn't do any search for a rifle, did she? That you're aware of?
No.
Are there various type of paintball guns in your experience?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask to have the witness shown States Exhibit 282.
And Judge, I believe this is the image that we stipulated to council. Is that correct?
It is, Your Honor, and I do have a courtesy copy for defense counsel that's now been marked, a courtesy copy for Your Honor and a copy for the court.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
And Detective, have you seen this image before?
Yes.
And that top image there, is that the Grendel 6.5 that we've earlier referenced?
Yes, it is.
And Your Honor, I would move for the admission of States Exhibit 282.
Again, Judge, that was by stipulation of the parties, so
All
I
right,
am not having an objection to it.
very well. Without objection, Exhibit 282 is admitted.
And Your Honor, I would ask permission to publish.
You may.
And Detective Counsel showed you an image of one type of paintball gun. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that is just one type?
Yes.
And you'd indicated that they make paintball guns that look similar to an assault rifle.
Yes.
And again, that top image is the firearm that was seized from an apartment associated with Alex Cox. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the bottom one, it's marked example. To be clear, this firearm was never located. Is that correct?
That is correct. This was not located.
Can you tell us what we're seeing in that bottom photo?
So this bottom photo right here is a Tipman paintball gun with the Tipman. Yeah. On the top is a hopper. On the back has a collapsible stock. And then your barrel.
And Your Honor, the state would ask to publish States Exhibit 281C that's already been admitted. If
You
I
may
could be
publish.
handed that. And Detective, this is a close-up, again, of the front part of that Grendel 6.5. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if the firearm was pointing at someone, this may be a vantage point of what they see.
Yes.
And detective again, Alex was in the area of the Daybell residence earlier in the day on October 9th. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then he was also
That's a key
in the
fact.
area about 2.6 miles away the night before Tammy was pronounced dead. Is that correct?
yes,
And counsel talked to you about whooshing and popping sounds from paintball guns. If a gun misfires, will it make a sound?
it depends what kind of misfire or jam it may have.
Are there various sounds that could, would the sound of a AR be muffled or different if it had a silencer on it?
Yes,
And counsel talked to you about Tammy being pretty close to the gun. She describes the gun as right behind her and she turns around and he's there, correct?
correct.
And we talked earlier about some searches done on the Homer J. Maximus account about a drop.
Yes,
If you're sighting your gun, and correct me if I'm using the wrong language here, if you're sighting a gun or trying to adjust it to fire a certain distance, is that different if it's a short distance versus a long distance?
yes,
So if you'd been further away and moved closer, would it be sighted indifferent?
yes, could be.
And counsel talked to you about the bipolar teenager mentioned in the email from Tammy to Mark, correct?
Yes,
Again, from your review of October 9th, were there any reports of a bipolar teenager pointing a paintball gun at anyone?
no, not that I'm aware of.
Any reports of someone other than Tammy Daybell? Any reports of anyone else coming face to face with a masked gunman?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And do you, trying to make sure I'm referencing the correct exhibit. And Your Honor, may I have State's Exhibit 291 again, please?
Yes.
And may I also have Defense Exhibit 16?
Chad looks very stiff. I don't think he likes this redirect. I think he's seeing how effective it is. His shoulders are drooped.
Yes, it is State's Exhibit 291
His
and
hands are
Defense
clasped.
Exhibit 16. And I guess while I'm at it, I forget the exhibit number, but the second call into dispatch by Tammy Daybell.
$32B.
232B, Your Honor. And Your Honor, may I have permission to publish Defense Exhibit 16?
Yes.
I know. I always find it funny how he always is in the shadows in the morning, Harlot. And yeah, I wonder what Lindsay Blake is rated in Chad's mind. Oh, she's dark. She's so dark. Oh, Lori, my Elena. Elena, let's find solace in our portal from these dark spirits that call out the things we did on the earth, on this earthly
Your Honor, defense
plane.
screen just went blank. Oh,
More tech issues,
sorry, it
of
popped up.
course. Some startup needs to do a global court tech issue fix. I mean, somebody, please, I'm begging you. I'll bet you. Thank you, Tiggy girl. I love you all too.
Night does not
I-
like my computer.
I'll bet you so many streamers and
Judge, if Miss
court
the
TV
court
and
would
law
prefer
and
to take a
crime.
short break now, and we could do the early afternoon break.
Well, I think we'll get this sorted out pretty quickly here.
would invest in such a startup, in such a global solution for this tech issue. But it wouldn't. The problem is you can't force every single county to adopt. You can't force every single county to adopt a tech solution. Just when I worked at Apple, it was a long time ago, right? And at the time that I worked at Apple, they were the leader in education from a technology standpoint. All the schools had Apple computers. But getting all, then we lost a bunch of market share because PCs started to take over again, but then we started to regain it again. But I tell you, getting all these different
Detective, can I have you look at that
standardized
first
is crazy.
sentence there? And can you read it into the record?
Something really weird just happened, and I want you to know so you can watch out.
Tammy's sending this message out, telling people she wants them to watch out, correct?
Yes.
And Judge,
all
I
that
would
just
now
for that.
ask to be able to display States Exhibit 291.
You may.
So this will take another 5 minutes just for a 2-second exhibit. Yeah, a lot of kids were raised on Apple products. Not all of them.
And at the end of that first big paragraph, do you see where Tammy indicates the scared part came after when my brain thought of other things that could have happened?
Yes.
And on this one, do you see at the end of that full paragraph where she says, I didn't go to Zumba because I quite understandably did not want to be out after dark alone?
Yes.
Do those statements indicate someone that was scared by what just happened?
Yes.
And in this one, do you see in that first paragraph where it says the guy started pulling the trigger and I could just hear the clicking and whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun?
Yes.
He was standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. Do you see that?
Yes,
Does this indicate more than someone just pointing a gun at someone?
yes, it does.
And do you recall in the dispatch call with Tammy where she talks about the man pointing the gun at her and just shooting? And we can listen to it again. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Yep. All day.
And Your Honor, may I publish State's Exhibit 232B?
Yes.
You know, Stacy, I'm actually the opposite. I've had 2 iPads and I didn't like them at all. I'm weird. So I gave my iPads to my kids, and I've always liked Apple laptops. So I use them most of all, but I also, of course, have an iPhone. I do like iPhones. But I do most of my social media on my laptop, but then again, I don't do very much social media.
49 minutes, 20 seconds.
It's pretty much something. Hi, I need to report something. Okay, go ahead. What's the address? Okay, at 202 North, 1900 East, the corner with the blinking yellow light on Salem Highway. Is it a suspicious person? Yes. Okay, what was he wearing? He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on. And he's at the blinking light now is where you saw him? No, he's gone now because I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the back seat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a paintball gun and he was and he was going to shoot at me. And I kept asking him what he was doing because I could tell it was a paintball thing. And then he just kept doing it. So I yelled for my husband and then he took off running around the back of my house. Okay, give me just 1 minute. Stay on the line with me. Okay.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 28 seconds.
And that was North 1900 East? Yes. Okay.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 43 seconds.
Do you know what direction he was going? He went behind my house and it's so dark out there and I went in the house and got my husband and son and then they went out and looked and he was long gone by then. So he was on the north side of my house is where he went to get away. Okay. He didn't say anything or he just kept like he was holding the gun like he was, had a rifle and was shooting at me, so. But nothing came out of the gun either, so I don't think it was loaded. Okay, what is your name? My name is Tammy.
I'm going to stop it right there. Did you hear on there where she says holding the gun like he had a rifle and shooting at me, but nothing came out?
Yes, I did.
Does that indicate more than someone just pointing a gun?
Yes, it does.
I know, Crystal. It's
And counsel talked to you a little bit about some of those searches associated with Homer J. Maximus. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And he talked to you about October being hunting season.
yes,
Would shooting through a windshield or shooting through a Dodge Dakota generally have anything to do with hunting?
no,
love that question. or shooting through a Dodge Dakota?
Through the investigation, did you become aware that Chad had deemed Alex to be Lori's protector?
Yes, I did.
After Alex shot Charles on July 11th of 2019, did Chad and Lori maintain a relationship to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I did.
In fact, we saw in an email, and I think you referenced it, Chad was down there on August 4th, 2019, just maybe about 3 weeks after Charles was shot and killed by Alex Cox.
Yes, he was.
Would that lead you to believe that Chad was scared of Alex Cox?
No,
Lead you to believe Chad was scared of Lori Vallow?
no,
Are you aware of any report taken by Fremont County where Chad Daybell reported that he was scared of anyone?
no, I am not aware.
Are you aware of Chad ever reporting anyone tried to shoot at him?
No,
This is really good redirect. Because it also elicits the memory of that blessing that Chad gave Alex before he died.
And again, through the investigation, what was the connection between Alex Cox and Tammy Daybell?
Chad Daybell.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you,
That's
Ms.
true,
White.
Crystal.
Judge, I would like an opportunity to clarify the driveway, and then counsel went on about
God.
the relationship between Alex and Chad Daybell, and I'd like an opportunity to at least touch on that.
I'll allow some limited recross on those two issues,
Judge.
Mr. Pryor.
Well, hippie, as you know, he doesn't know what's good for him. Because here we go.
Officer Counsel put up the Facebook posting by Tammy Daybell, and it describes the front driveway. Do you recall that?
The Facebook, I don't recall if that said the front driveway.
Judge,
I
could I?
know in the email it. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna have to have permission to go get my computer, Judge, and bring up that. May I have permission to go back and get my computer?
Yes.
Exhibit 6.
Y'all, I can't help it. Every time someone asks in the court for permission to go back and forth in the court, I think of Lana waltzing around the court like it was her bedroom. Just like she freaking owned the thing. It's Rocket Land. You members do have a Rocket Man emoji in case you didn't notice it.
My turn now. I'm not ready yet, Judge.
It wouldn't be so funny if she hadn't sworn for 2 years that she's an incredible amateur lawyer. It's just so freaking funny. There you go, Tiny girl.
Because she couldn't file.
I think I'm ready now, Judge.
All right.
I don't want to
Publish
interrupt real court. That was the "Can I please talk" clip.
Okay, and I apologize. I can't get this to widen on me, Judge, but officer, can you read that if you look at your monitor?
Yes, I can, and it does say the front driveway.
Okay, and I'm sorry we had to go through that with all that time, but I wanted to make sure. And Judge, that's all I have for this.
Okay, thank you.
So there is no dispute that this was the front driveway, correct?
Correct.
And again, the front driveway is a very short driveway compared to the one in the back, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and further, the distance between the front of the house and where the car was backed up, that even shortens the distance even more, correct?
Yes.
And it would be unusual to use a rifle at such close range, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a weapon that you use at close range, correct?
Usually not.
Yeah. In fact, a rifle is typically used when we're talking about hunting. That's long range, which is consistent with Mr. Cox talking about 100 and 300-yard shots, right?
Sometimes.
And in your experience, if you're really trying to hurt somebody at close range, you would probably use a handgun or a shotgun, right?
Well, I guess I misstated right there.
Okay.
Rifles can be used at close range, close
Okay.
quarter combats,
Okay.
SWAT stuff. So
Okay.
yes, they can be used.
Okay. Now, the information you got about the Dodge Dakota, you recall that, right?
Yes.
And you talked about the fact that someone was talking about putting a bullet through the window of a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
Someone trying to figure out what type of bullet it would take to pierce the side of a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
Someone who would take what kind of a bullet would pierce the metal or the thickness of the metal on a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
So it would seem with Mr. Daybell owning a Dodge Dakota that it seems that at least the target was someone in the Daybell family. Would that be fair?
That'd be fair to say, yes.
Okay. And with the Homer J. Maximus account, is there any indication that Chad was shared all of the information on Alex Cox's Homer J. Maximus account?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Do you have any information to suggest that Mr. Daybell had access to the Homer J. Maximus account?
No, I do not.
Okay. So if Mr. Daybell didn't have access to the information in that account, do you have any other information that Mr. Daybell had knowledge that Alex Cox was looking for a way to shoot a Dodge Dakota that Mr. Daybell owned?
No.
Okay, nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that will conclude then the testimony of Detective Kaya Kamanu. And he's testified twice now. Is he still, well, he's the case agent, so I don't know if he'll be recalled or not, but Detective, you can go ahead and step down from the witness stand. We'll make sure to retrieve exhibits. I'll have a brief sidebar with counsel to discuss scheduling for today, and we'll take our afternoon recess at this time.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, please.
Okay. Okay.
Because she couldn't file on me.
I am going to advise you, Miss Oriani.
That's fine.
You do have the right not to incriminate yourself.
I do.
Don't know.
And I would not like to speak on anything that has to do with that.
Please talk.
Yep.
Thank you. Are you going to let me talk now? Are you going to interrupt me?
You can speak. Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thanks for your permission.
This is your courtroom.
Judge, you're so gorgeous, Miss Judge. I just have to tell you, you're gorgeous.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Oh man, the courtroom, the courtroom, the courtroom. All right, they're taking their recess. I'm going to switch back to Lauren's lunchtime live because we were watching that earlier and it was interesting because she's talking to two jurors from Lori Daybell's trial.
Mind. I mean, honestly, I think they might have made up their minds yesterday when they decided to body shame Tammy. Any thoughts on that, Laura? By the way, Tom just looked the other way.
Well, I was at home watching when he did that, and there was some foul language text that I may or may not have sent Tom during that, asking, "Did I really just
Tom's
hear?"
nodding.
I was so mad and sad for her that this is how they're, putting a final pin into her life is
Yeah.
I find this so interesting because these are jury members from Lori's trial. Now, admittedly, they're probably much more invested in the case now, and they know more about the case, and they have more sympathy for the victims in the case now, and all of that, right? But it feels also like they are expressing feelings. They did, Harlot. They did. They did. I'm trying to remember the exact words, but Pryor was questioning a witness, the coroner. Not the coroner. Anyway, he was questioning one of the witness about Tammy's autopsy and her. I don't even think he said the word. Did he say the word plump? I'll trust you on that. But he said, isn't it true that she wasn't exactly a model or something like that, or that she wasn't exactly perfect, or she didn't have a model figure, that she didn't have low body fat or something. And he went in that direction. And she was fit because she was right, truth junkie. She wasn't petite. I do remember that specifically. He said she was not petite. Yep, it was totally unnecessary. And yesterday we watched Lauren's Lunchtime Live, where she went off on it, and it was very satisfying to hear. So, yeah, I know how would he know? How would he know what petite means? And the issue is that we probably know that Chad put that in his head to ask. And Lauren talked about actually seeing the crime scene photos of her laying on the bed, and that she was thin and fit. So regardless, even if she wasn't thin and fit, how disrespectful and degrading for a murdered woman to be talked about like that, especially when we know that the autopsy findings are that she was smothered to death. Okay? So it doesn't matter what body shape she was in. It doesn't matter. So it is very interesting to hear former jury members from last year react to this.
And it's so disgusting. And I did watch your lunch live yesterday.
Okay.
And I haven't said this to you, but I do want to say it. You're beautiful inside and out.
Thank you.
Lauren is exactly the person that you see on the lunch live, in the interviews. She is a true person. She's real. She's lovely. She's a good mom. And people who are bullies on the internet they have their own issues, and you can't know what those are. And shame on you if you're one of those people doing that.
Thank you. I will pay her later. That was very sweet. No, thank you. Thank you. That was kind.
I was mad yesterday when I watched it later on. That's part of the reason why I haven't done very many of these, because people can be so mean and I was sort of, I'm thrown into this. This wasn't by choice, but I think
that's my biggest issue with it. It's one thing for people to criticize, people who choose to be public, who choose to be high profile, those people, people who choose to be high profile need to expect a certain amount of criticism. That was a choice. People who are victims of true crime and their, and true crime families, they didn't ask for any of this. So for people to criticize victims of true crime and to act in a mean girl fashion toward them, that is like sadism at its worst. That is a really angry, self-hating person. Yeah.
what we're doing, even though we're doing it with a pink microphone, it's important. I think our minds need to be changed because
not only can they not fight back, Blue, but they did not ask to be put in the spotlight. And then the people around them, there's the victim who's dead, who doesn't have a voice. So, ostensibly that's what we're here for. It's to help give that victim a voice, right? But then you get their family members who get thrown into it. They didn't ask for any of that. And now they're all getting accused of being part of the crime with no evidence of that whatsoever. Just heavy judgment on their past behaviors and character and their social media profiles. Seriously. Just a bunch of stalkers on social media combing through other people's social media and coming up with conclusions. And in some cases, they're right. Like look at this Steven Stearns and the Madeline Soto case. He's just been charged with murder, right? So he obviously was involved. He did look sketchy. But no one, up until we know that those charges are there, deserve to be hounded and harassed. And we have the presumption of innocence in this country.
there's real victims here, and there's smaller cases going on, and people's attitudes toward being on a jury need to be changed too. It's not a burden. It's an honor to do that. And I think Tom could say the same thing, as I wanted to get out of it. In fact, the defense did ask me if I wanted to be released at the very beginning, and I said yes. And Judge Boyce is like, that's not a good reason to be, And so all of these things happen on purpose. And so I want people out there, you say, what can I do? I want to help these victims. Well, there's other victims out there that don't have this notoriety that need help too.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for saying that. It is your civic duty, and it is an honor. You just added. Thank you, and thank you for serving, both of you, so that justice was seen. And I know that people have been writing me and saying they're praying for this jury. If you can do that, pray for them. What they're doing is very, very hard. So thank you for sharing that. Tom, I want to talk to Tom. I just want to share Tom's book. Honestly, I'll say it. I'm about to turn this over and ask Tom to share his book, because Tom, it changed Tom's life so much. He was not in the true crime community. He didn't want to be in such a community, and he became part of this community after he did his civic duty and had to sit through 6 weeks of Lori Vallow Daybell's trial last year. And he's now written a book. He's giving proceeds to help children. And will you just share where they can, he can't publish the book until the end of this trial. For good reason. He's interviewed everybody that, you know, some really important people, including law enforcement. Will you share with the audience where they could support you and support children and support victims of crime, really in general, and people who serve on the jury, like everything, and justice? Will you share where they can pre-order your book?
So the book is Money, Power, and Sex, the Lori Vallow Daybell trial by juror number 18. You can buy it on pre-order right now if you go to.
That's interesting. So this juror has written a book called Money, Power, and Sex, and that was the opening sentence. Those were the opening 3 words by Lindsay Blake of the prosecution in Lori's trial. Money, power, and sex.
To tomevansauthor.com. It's going to be released as soon as there's a verdict in this trial. So hopefully end of May, early June. And my charity, the Hope House, is an organization that takes care of children. They take in children in need from wherever, provide for them a home and education and everything they need until they're adults. And then even after they're adults, a lot of them go back and help support Hope House. So it's a really great organization. You can find them hometocometo.com. Look them up and maybe give them a donation would be awesome too.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm actually going to go jump on with Justin Lum. Make sure to give Justin Lum your attention to. I always say Justin was the first reporter on this case in Arizona who clearly saw that Charles's murder was something suspicious, and he didn't let it go. And he's in Arizona watching this trial, talking about this trial. So I'm going to go jump on with Justin. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks, everyone.
So it is interesting to hear from the former, from, you know, the jurors from the last trial. They're not back in court yet. So I'm going to look for and see if I can find that. One moment, please. I wonder where her and Justin Lum went on, because I can't find it on YouTube and I can't find it on X, otherwise formerly known, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Because I would like to see them in conversation about this. Maybe she shared it. Yeah, I've looked at Fox 10. Yeah, you can hear the birds. The birds have been going all morning. Yeah, I know he's in Fox. He's at Fox 10. Maybe I'll just look right on the site, I guess. Yeah, I don't think he has I don't think he airs conversations with people on his on the actual on the website. Why is this so hard to find? Well, I can't find it. So I apologize. So I'm going to switch to see if there's anything going on in Massachusetts. So this is
2:27 a.m. How long to die in the cold is right up on your screen. Every time you hear a beep. Yeah, both. Colin's in the house and 227 with that one. There you go, 227. Colin. 227! I don't know what overpass Denise protests from. This is in Weymouth. This is in Front Street in Weymouth. Okay? It's really easy to get to. What we're looking at now is Route 3. So because they're charging this girl with this murder that couldn't have happened the way they said happened, we all decided to get together and support this lady who's factually innocent. So that's kind of what happened. Oh, that sounded nice, huh?
Do we have a blatant description, clear description of Alex Cox being in the driveway? No, we don't. Have we heard of a text message from Lori Vallow stating that Alex Cox just can't get it right and needs to work on his shooting? We have that from last year's trial. It could be brought up again. There were some exhibits brought up, presented by John Pryor that the state argued was outside the scope as well. But I think what is mind-blowing today is that for the first time, we know how aware Tammy Daybell was of this light and dark scale, and that her husband was the one to give out the grades. And their kids totally believed in this. Their kids totally bought into it and sought this information. They were talking about kids. They're talking about kids being dark spirits. So how easy was it for Chad Daybell to offer up this information to other people outside his family? You see that with the inner circle, with Lori Vallow and the rest of their inner circle, Melanie Gibb, Zulema Pastenis. It's brought up. The castings are done. People are getting information from him and validating his, I guess, his knowledge. And so could that be a motive here for
That was very interesting. Yeah, so they showed some exhibits, some emails where where Chad was rating members, other people in the family or other kids that were not Lori's kids, basically. And this was all in emails with Tammy and their kids. Yeah, she wasn't on the video. So obviously she wasn't on the video. I don't know exactly where she shows up here. But I actually find his insights interesting here.
Power is what the prosecution has said, this religion aspect that was used to justify these heinous crimes. It's all laid out here in these messages. If it's a cover-up or what, I don't know. But the bottom line is 3 people ended up murdered at the Daybell property. Tylee Ryan and like Tammy Daybell's in these chats as well, and like it's just strange. It's strange to see this unfold. I don't know if it's hard to read on the projector, but not sure we have a specific time frame, or if they listed a date or said the date that these were sent. They talk about clearing weapons or negative energy, and at some point the jury is going to have to decipher what is just noise and what matters and what doesn't matter, what is actual like circumstantial evidence, and what ties back to these 3 murders of JJ Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell. It's like John Pryor is trying to show that Tammy Daybell knew about this belief system and what Chad Daybell taught to people, and like she was okay with it. But this is just one sample size of the whole, unorthodox offshoot religion, whatever you want to call it, because we know there's more out there. Someone brought up a good question. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up right here. Question from
taught his family a bit of this belief system. But, so we are seeing that. And I just hope, though, that the jury doesn't think anything beyond that. I don't know what your thoughts were from watching, but that's how I was sort of taking it in. And I am watching the jury, and I can't really tell. They're definitely paying attention, but I can't really tell what they're feeling about it.
Yeah, I like to ask you, when John Pryor gets up there, what's the reaction with, it seems like he's trying to, do his job and, muck up the testimony by the prosecution's witness and cast some doubt, some confusion, really is a lot of noise. I mean, we're talking about this paintball gun incident, and whether it's a paintball gun or not, that went on for a long time today. So what do you see from the jury? Obviously, I can hear some frustration or impatience coming from the state and even Judge Boyce sometimes. I mean, we heard that 911 calls multiple times.
Exactly. In some ways, judges almost objecting sometimes for the state, saying, look,
I'm glad we weren't alone in noticing all of that. They're expressing the same frustration.
They've answered this multiple times. Like, do we really need to do this? Let's listen to that 911 call one more time. The jury is hard to read, but they are absolutely paying attention to both the prosecution and the defense. I think that the prosecution is putting on a great, they're listening intently. Like how I explain it is, you have 18 jurors, and when the defense or the prosecution is talking, they turn their heads and they're listening. And as soon as they conclude, all 18 of them turn their heads and they
Like
look
watching a tennis
at
match.
the witness. Like they're really paying attention to the back and forth. I do think they're getting a little tired of the on and on and on of the defense. And I've noticed that they take, I guess you could say, fewer notes as John Pryor continues his cross. I've noticed that they seem to take more notes when the state is talking and when the state is directing or redirecting. That's one thing I've noticed, which means that they're really trying to A, listen, and B, pay attention to what the prosecution is saying. But this paintball gun incident, or the not, John Pryor, I think is just almost desperate to drill home, because if he can cast doubt that it was indeed a paintball gun and not a rifle, brought by Alex Cox, then it means that his this idea that maybe Tammy Daybell died from natural causes is a little bit more probable. Of course, though, you have to realize that even if they decide in the end that this is a paintball gun, the jury, right, or if they're not sure, I think that John Pryor is casting doubt, they still have to decide that Tammy Daybell wasn't.
Court's back in session. I think they have, I feel validated by their observations about the paintball gun. Do you? What do you think? I feel validated. Because both Justin and Lauren are professional reporters. Even though Lauren now really runs a YouTube channel, she was a professional reporter in her area for quite some time. So thank you for validating us, even though I already felt validated. Sorry. Sorry if that blew out your ears. Did they so you tell me, chat, did they fix the tech issues?
All right, please.
Are we going to have 10 minutes per exhibit? iPhone user confirmed. Yeah. Exactly. Very standard iPhone ring for sure. Yeah, for sure. She says that the first thing she did was go in and shout for her husband. So of course she went and she was like, I just got shot at.
Okay, we're back on the record on case CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Continuing with the state's case in chief, is the state prepared to call another witness this afternoon?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Wixom.
Thank you. We would call Spencer Cook.
Spencer Cook. So of course, and then he's going to be like, describe what happened, describe the gun. She describes the gun. He's like, oh, that's a paintball gun. Of course he's going to say that because he knows what happened. He knows what was planned. He's going to put that in her head, right? So then when she calls 911 to report it, she's going to say what her husband says. That's the dynamic of their relationship.
Testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you.
She is mandated by her faith to put the man in charge. She was following the rules of her faith. Chad says it's a paintball gun. It's a paintball gun. Do you understand how fucked up
All right,
that
now
is?
that the witness has been sworn, before we start with testimony, I'll just inquire, because the court has its exclusionary order. Mr. Cook, have you been viewing at all any of the testimony in this case on the court's live stream or otherwise in the trial since it started?
No.
All right, have you discussed with anyone else their testimony they've given in the case?
No.
Very well. With that, thank you for your confirmation of that. You can go ahead and inquire on direct, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, will you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Spencer Cook, SpencerCook.
And Mr. Cook, what is it that you do for a living?
I'm the technology director at the Sugar Salem School District.
Is that the same school that Tammy Daybell worked at back in 2019?
It is.
What could you explain to the jury in your role at work? What is it that you do specifically?
As the technology director, I'm in charge of all of the technology throughout the district. So that includes all of the schools from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And I'm in charge of the data, the anything that plugs into the wall, basically. So projectors, computers, network, security, cameras, email, communications, telephones.
Court needs to hire
Okay,
this
thank
guy.
you. And so you mentioned email. What do you have to do with respect to the email for the school?
Well, I maintain and manage the emails accounts for all of the employees and students at the district.
When you say manage the email accounts, what does that entail?
Well, we use Google apps for the email service, and so I maintain all of the accounts and make sure that users can log in and make sure they receive emails and send emails.
Do you also manage the email storage?
I do.
Could you explain to the jury what you do with the storage for the email system?
Sure. So we have the front-facing email Gmail account, and the users log in and out that. That's a completely separate setup that they use, and then I have a archiving server that maintains all email communications in and out from all accounts that we maintain, and that is only accessed by myself.
How long does the school keep emails?
We keep emails for 3 years.
And what about the users? Is there a school policy for how long a user might keep their email?
Users can keep their emails as long as they see fit. There's no limit to the amount of storage that they can keep. So if there's an email that they need that's important, then they're able to keep those emails.
Do you recall back in February of 2021 being contacted by law enforcement with respect to Tammy Daybell's email?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what it was that they requested of you?
They were asking for emails that Tammy had received from anybody and anyone that would send an email to her email account. And they were looking for an email from Charles Vallow on a specific time frame. It was, I think, June 29th of 2019.
Were you able to retrieve that kind of an email?
Yeah, I was able to retrieve it from the archiving server.
Your Honor, at this time, the state has a proposed state's exhibit we've marked as 419, and I believe it's been stipulated it can be entered. I can offer up 2 copies to the court.
All right. Has the defense been able to review 419? Any objection to its admission? Yeah, we'll have you review that first.
Definitely a very demanding job. Because there's always tech issues and needs. We're all on tech.
Okay, so exhibit 419 is admitted.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have permission to publish with the ILMO?
Yeah, I'll have the bailiff give you the exhibit for publishing.
Exactly, Blue.
I believe I'm just waiting for the clerk, Your Honor.
Yeah, we're looking at that again.
It just really
Is that showing on the jurors monitors? Okay, there we go. Thank you.
these we have been in the technology age for so long. It's funny that it takes so long for certain institutions to catch up.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, I'd like to call your attention to just the first paragraph of this exhibit. If you want to go, can you see it on your
I
screen?
see it on my screen, yes.
You mentioned an email that you retrieved in Tammy Daybell's email system.
Correct.
And the date again was what?
The June 29th of when the email was
Yes.
retrieved, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to call your attention to the first paragraph. If you will, go down to where there's a quote in there with the content of the email. Do you see the quote marks where it says Tammy, my name?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Will you just read the first two full sentences of that, please?
Sure. Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and yes, yep. You bet. Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. This is your work email, so I'll have to wait to send you the evidence. That is very disturbing.
And can you explain to the jury which email address was this sent to? What was Tammy's email?
Her email address was tdaybell@sugarsalem.com.
And what address did this come from?
It came from an email, charles.vallow@icloud.com.
In your work as the IT manager, can you explain to the jury, were you able to look into whether or not this email had been opened up?
Yeah, we, in the interview with law enforcement, we went into her account and we were able to find the email that was in her deleted folder. And it was there opened, and the email had been the email address from Charles Value, the Charles Value at iCloud.com, had been put into the blocked category inside of Google. So any email that Lori would have, or that Lori, sorry, any email that Charles would have sent would have been blocked, any future emails. So they would not have been received.
When you did your search of the email system, were there any other emails to or from Charles Vallow?
No, there were not.
Your Honor, I don't think I have any further questions.
All right, cross-examination. Okay, so there will be no cross of the witness. Mr. Cook, thank you for coming in and providing your testimony. Is he released from any
Interesting.
subpoena from the state?
No
From
cross-examination
the defense?
on the damning email.
Okay, well, that will conclude your testimony in the trial. Thank you for appearing today. You can go ahead and step down, and that will conclude your testimony.
On the damning email.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's 3:00. I discussed scheduling with counsel. They've got another, well, depending on who they call next, it's an inconvenient time to start with a next witness potentially. There's been a request that we conclude for the day. Let me just confirm from the state, is that still how the state's requesting we proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, and I know the defense is fine with,
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
all right, and I know the defense is fine with that as well. So that is going to conclude our trial evidence for today. We'll start again with trial tomorrow. And while the jurors are here, counsel, perhaps we can just give them some indication. Is there some request with your scheduling that tomorrow being Friday, that we stop sooner than the mid-afternoon.
The state's fine with that as well. We do have some witnesses coming in from out of town, so we're hoping to be able to get through them rather than hold them over the weekend. But I believe that would most likely just take the morning.
Okay, well, we'll see how things go. So no promises, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that tomorrow may not be a full day through the mid-afternoon. So with that, we will conclude for the day today. And again, as we break for the day, I'll remind the jurors to please follow the court's continuing admonishment to not investigate the case in any way, try to avoid any media coverage of the case, and do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. You can only do that once deliberations have started. So thank you for continuing to follow that instruction each day. We'll be in recess until tomorrow.
All rise, please.
Can you believe their hours are short, Truth Junkie? Can you believe how much time we spent on one topic today on cross-examination? Cross-examination about a paintball gun that wasn't a paintball gun. My God. And something so inconsequential. I mean, just incredibly inconsequential. It's fairly irritating and frustrating. And I do feel validated. I don't need to be validated. I feel, I validate my own thoughts and feelings before I speak them publicly, but it's nice to get the validation when I can. Now, so tomorrow we will be back again. Apparently there are out-of-town witnesses, so that sounds like witnesses perhaps on Tammy's behalf, friends of Tammy, family members of Tammy, perhaps Heather Daybell, who is her her sister-in-law, which is Chad's brother's wife. She's come out and was interviewed by Lauren Mathias. So she's been outspoken before, and I believe, if I recall correctly, I could be wrong about this, she might have testified in the last trial regarding a weapon that was not used in the... Yeah, exactly. Oh, petty prior with a prior. Petty prior, so it's PP-WAP. PP-WAP. And she just, and Tammy, poor Tammy, was being schemed against for so long, cheated on for so long, an assassination attempt, and 10 days later, a murder, is just going along her way, just doing her faithful duty of being the wife that she's supposed to be. The PP WAP, right? Tiggy girl, you like that? Yeah, it could be Zulema, but Zulema doesn't really play into the Tammy story that much that I know of. Yeah, she blocked Charles. She just, some people, when they hear information they don't want to hear, they don't process it. They don't try to understand it. They just plug their ears and go, nah, 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 nah. That's what they do. That's what they do. Could be Melanie P. I don't know. So, all right, y'all. I will leave you with I will leave you with one more court clip.
That was,
But then she attacks his girlfriends.
Dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, dick pussy, going back and forth between texts with one another, and I never want to hear it again.
Some judges, I think, really play to that play to that camera.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, okay, right? Okay, right? Okay, right? Right? Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. All right. Hugs to everyone. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. And please be kind and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.